Episode 37, Back of the Class podcast. I'm Glenn Anderson.
I'm Ben.
And before we start off this week's episode, we'd like to say huge thank you to our sponsors, Coco's Cakes, VIR Electrical, the Members First Credit Union, Balgriff Inn and Pitside Pizza and Grill. And this week we're joined by
Dean Siney.
Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, boys.
It's quite the company you have. I'm looking forward to get into this.
Yeah, likewise. Excited.
When I seen it in the shops, I actually didn't even know whether it was a person or not. I thought it was like one of these big companies, you know what I mean? There's loads of different corporate owned, it is a big company.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's funny you say it, because even from early days, I kind of made that conscious decision to try and obviously like have the brand look bigger than it was. I think it's been a massive part of its success, you know, to try and make it look like it stands on its own, you know, it looks bigger than it is, you know, to get out there and establish.
Shape and perception, they mean? Like
exactly, yeah, like funny, because I was actually kind of heavily involved in the health and fitness world, and I was involved with other brands at the time. And when I actually started to sort of promote it, and even with my close friends, you know, I had told them, oh no, this is a big brand that's after coming over from the UK and they just want me to help do it. Gospel, like I told lads this for, honestly, must have been over a year, and they're like, really? Yeah. And they're like obviously looking at it, and I tried to obviously incorporate that in the branding too, so that, you know, it looked bigger than it was, and just help it, because sometimes it's hard, you know, when they see, like, literally it was created from a concept in my head at home in the kitchen, looking at the opportunity there for, I suppose, healthier, convenient food. And obviously, you know, people, when they look at certain things, especially when they're in the infancy stages, they're quick to, that'll never work, or that's not whatever. How's he going to pull that off, do you know? So I just had that in my head always from day one. I was like, right, I'm going to try and make this look bigger than it was. And I looked at other brands that had done similar, you know.
You must have had crazy self-belief from day one, did you?
Yeah, I think you always have to back yourself, you know what I mean? It's very important that obviously, you know, I mean, any sort of business is always going to be a slog, and if you don't believe it, you're wasting your time. You're destined to fail, you know. So you have to really back yourself, you know.
Yeah, I think you have to go into things thinking like this could be the next big thing from day one, don't you?
100%.
But I think as well, obviously, like passion, I think comes from like the work. Do you believe in that?
100%. I think passion is so important. Anyone, especially like, you know, obviously up and coming or wanting to be an entrepreneur, looking at different business ideas, they have to, especially in this day and age when you're influenced by so many others online and whatever, like you have to really be passionate about it to give it a proper go, because there's always going to be setbacks, you know. You hear the cliches online, I'm sure, all the time, or with different people in business. There's always going to be obstacles, and if you're not passionate about it, you'll just tap out, you know. You'll get so far down the road and you just give up, you know. So passion is massively important, you know.
Do you want to bring us back to the start and tell us what life was like for you growing up, what skill was like, and sort of where the entrepreneurial spark came from?
Yeah, cool. I suppose for me, I was actually born in Australia, funny enough.
Oh yeah.
And
which part?
I was born in Victoria, Melbourne, so I have a lot of family over there.
That's the capital, is it? Or Sydney's the capital, is it?
Yeah. So it's just outside of Melbourne, and I was obviously only a nipper then, but I was raised in Dublin, so I grew up in Kilnamanagh and Tala. And then I actually moved kind of my early teens up to Bleston. But I spent most of my childhood in Kilnamanagh back in the good old days. I was a millennial, so it was back in the 90s when phones weren't taking over everyone's lives and everything else, and it was just all sports and out with it pals and, you know, living the life and having the crack, you know. But sports were massive for me growing up, you know, always true. Obviously, you know, my childhood, I played everything that was going. I was doing athletics when I was young. I was playing GAA, soccer, throwing my hand at boxing. Everything that I could get involved in was obviously I was in there, you know.
Yeah.
What was school like, the sort of education side for you?
It was good. Like, I mean, I enjoyed school. I like school because obviously I played all the sports
teams.
I was obviously had good pals in school growing up, like, you know, good pals that are all still heavily involved, like Aaron Green for Shamrock Rovers, me and him.
Aaron's still banging the goals.
Yeah, he's still banging the goals in there for Rovers. Me and him were very close pals, played all the GA, all the soccer together growing up, and I had loads of other friends that were, you know, obviously like-minded, let's say, and involved in the sports too. So I had a ball in school. I just obviously probably focused too much on the sports as opposed to the academic side, you know. Yeah. But thankfully I got away with it.
Is Katie McCabe's from Kilmanagh, isn't she?
Yeah, Gary McCabe was Katie, obviously, I went Kevin's Killians. So Kevin's Killians was obviously all boys, but right beside it was the girls school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether she went there or not, but obviously Gary McCabe, he was in my school, but he was a couple of years older than me, you know. But no, it was good. School was good there, and then I went to secondary in Blessing.
What did you want to be when you were that age growing up?
Jeez, you know what? I was torn. I actually, would you believe, athletics took over for me a lot of my kind of younger years. I was fairly good at it, so I was kind of getting sucked into doing all the track and field. I used to do sprinting, and I used to do the high jump, and I was doing really well. Like when I was 12, 13, I think it was, under 13s, I won the All Ireland in the high jump, and I went to Mosney a couple of times sprinting and all, and done really well. But then as I got into my kind of teenage years, I started to get sucked more into the football side of things. You know, it's just obviously your friends and whatever they're into, and athletics is kind of, you know, individual, and there's more crack playing football with the lads and stuff like that. And then I moved up into Blessing, and that was like heavily kind of GAA orientated, so I get kind of sucked into that a bit more, you know.
See, you sponsor the GAA now, don't you?
Yeah, and that was a good privilege. We sponsored them for a couple of years. There's another obviously business local now that sponsors them, but for the last couple of years we were sponsoring them, and it was something I always, when I set up NutriQuick, wanted to do. I said I'd love to get it to a point that obviously I could sponsor the team, and I just always had that in my head, like looking at the logo on the jersey. And we did it, and what was even better about it was that senior team in Blessing, they hadn't won a championship in, like, I think it was over 30 years. It was since 1983. And some of our coaches was on that team, so they used to always give us grief, you know what I mean? You used to never win senior championship, never.
Yeah.
And I walked away from playing GAA when I started up the business, like kind of early 20s. And then I came back. Now I was just a panel player, I was just involved, but I sponsored them, and we won first championship in 2021 in like 30 plus years with the logo and all on it. So that was
when you
nice.
started playing Gaelic, when you went to that heavily induced Gaelic sort of culture, did you ever think to yourself like, oh, one day I could be sponsoring these? Or?
No, do you know, like, only when I started the business that obviously I have that thought, let's say, or vision. I suppose, when I was playing GAA, I was playing it in primary school too, so I was playing it in Kevin's Killians, and then obviously, as I said, it kind of took over, it became more of a preference, and I moved up into Blessing because it was just obviously so heavily focused in the community. But when I actually kind of stepped away to set up the business, I'd always said I'd love to go back. Now, I didn't go back for years. I think I was out for about 7 or 8 years. Like, I was playing a lot of GAA kind of me middle to late teens, because I got onto the county team, so I was playing county football, I was playing club football, I was honestly playing 5-6 nights a week. And then I actually had a kid really young, like, so I was only around 20, and I was like, right, I'm putting like literally so much time into this, and obviously I'm getting kind of, not that I wasn't getting anything back, but financially, as you know, it's an amateur sport, so it wasn't paying the bills, put it that way. And I realised obviously kind of, you know, my responsibilities and all that changed, so I made a decision to set up the business around that time when I stepped away. And it killed me a little bit, because I was like, oh, I'd like obviously love the crack and the banter with the lads and playing football and championship games and all the rest. I said, I'll step away for a year, maybe 2 years, and then I'll go back, you know. But sure, 6-7 years later, I was still on the hamster wheel, like they say, just trying to obviously build and grow the business. But I always had in the back of my head, after, like, you know, the first couple of years getting it established, getting the brand out there, I was like, I'd love to now get this to a point now where we could sponsor, and I could go back and get involved, whether I'd be playing or not, just to kind of, you know, just help the lads, really, like support. Obviously, I had lads close to me that were on that team, and they were literally training year in, year out, and they were very close. Like, we'd had a number of semi-finals, finals, and just couldn't get it over the line. So it's just like obviously something in me head that I wanted to try and help them in any way, you know, get it over the line.
Tell us about that middle period from when you finished school to your early 20s, as you said, when you set up the business. Yeah,
so when I actually left school, I think I was around 17, and as I said, I was still playing football, and obviously I had a kind of a close circle there, lads I was after growing up with and playing, and one of them, his older brother, was after setting up his own company. He was like a carpenter by trade, and building at the time was booming, and I wasn't really sure, you know what I mean, what way I wanted to go. I didn't really, like, at the time I wasn't really mad on going to college, and I kind of had a few things in my head, but I wasn't 100% sure, and he offered me an apprenticeship. So I was like, right. And it was kind of, at that time, in people's head, it was obviously high value to get one of them. A lot of people would have got their apprenticeship and they would have travelled maybe to Australia, different places. So I says, look, I'll do this. I'll jump into it and get going. And I did that. I'd done that for about 4 years. So I think I got qualified kind of early 20s. And then the building crashed at the time. I don't really remember, but the building sort of crashed, and I kind of stayed in it for a while. But it wasn't ideal.
Around like 2008 time, was it?
I'm trying to remember, man, here now the exact. I think it kind of started around there.
Yeah.
Don't quote me now, because I'm sure somebody be in your comments now going, "Jeez, I can't even remember." But no, my memory's not the best exactly on the dates, but it was roughly kind of the follow on of that, because it was obviously around 2008 when everything started to kind of crumble in the economy and crash. But roughly kind of middle to end of that apprenticeship, obviously building started to take a hit, and everything really for that matter, but building in particular. And I kind of said, right, this isn't really working here. And obviously I'd probably realised as well that I wasn't going to do this forever. Do you know, I was like, no, I'm not, like, again, just being real passionate. Yeah, exactly. I like certain aspects of it, and I still do. It's great, like, it's good to have in your back pocket, and obviously be able to throw your hands at stuff at home and the house and do bits and pieces, whatever. But I just knew, like, obviously long term, I was like, nah, it's not really. I wanted to explore loads of other things, you know, at the time. So actually,
what you like at setting up the IKEA furniture with the setting up the other day, and I thought
I'm
it was
not,
quite
do you know
handy
what?
till I faced
I'm not,
that.
yeah, no,
That's
100%.
tough,
I know it can be a challenge, but I'm not going to brag about it, because I'll have every auntie and my mum and everybody ask me to come around there and do this. But no, it's I'm not too bad, put it that way. Not too bad.
And what was the spark then to set up the business? Where did that come from? Why was it meals? Why was it?
Well, I suppose back then, what happened was I finished my apprenticeship, and then obviously I realised, you know, that, as I say, it wasn't really for me long term. So I started to look at other things, and again, what we said, I kind of looked at things that I was interested in, what I liked. As I mentioned, like sports, I was always heavily involved in sports, and obviously the health and fitness side of it. I'd kind of got into like strength and conditioning a lot near the end of that, because I was starting to get called up onto senior teams, and I needed to obviously build up to be fit to play that. And I took a real shine to that, so I actually went and done a course in Satanta College. I started a bachelor's degree there doing strength and conditioning and personal training, and I went down that road, and that kind of like segued into nutrition. So obviously they kind of go hand in hand, as I'm sure you know. So I started this kind of self-teach myself, do a lot of research on nutrition, and I learnt loads, and then eventually I went and done a kind of dietary course, a basic dietary course. But as I was doing that, I got into, I set up my own small gym that was kind of adjacent to the GA club, because I was still heavily involved in the GA community and club. And I could see that, like, the biggest problem people had that I was training, whether it be teams or individuals, was the nutrition. The food was letting them down all the time. They were obviously committed to doing whatever their regime was, whether it was 1, 2, 3 sessions a week or whatever, but then they were struggling to obviously maintain the diet. And even when you gave out plans or you tried to, you know, advise them, there's always challenges there, you know, whether they have the time, whether they have, you know, the ability, you know, they can cook, whether they know how to do whatever it may be, and that entails. So I seen a massive opportunity for it. And like, I mean, I know it's not too many moons ago, but like back then, if you think about it, like there was literally nothing for convenience and healthy food, nothing. Now I had seen overseas, there was obviously, you know, signs of different companies setting up and starting, which I took some inspiration from. But here in Ireland, like, you didn't have any of even the kind of ones that you have now in supermarkets or in the actual like shopping centres, you know, like your Chops or your Sprouts or your, none of them existed, you know. So health and convenience was a massive gap I seen, and I seen it as a massive opportunity. So that's kind of what sparked the idea.
And what you said, you had a kid, was this before or after the business?
After. So before the business I had a kid.
So what was that like, setting it up? Was there not a lot of pressure on your shoulders and a lot of people telling you, oh, get a job, don't go out on a risk, sort of?
Yeah, there was 100% that kind of in the back of my head, or people around me maybe saying, you know what I mean, kind of just knuckle down. But I think I was always ambitious, and I knew I'd always, you know, want to pursue something. I just, again, was trying to find something that I really was passionate about before I went kind of full on at it, you know. Now I obviously kept working while doing it. Like, I was working multiple jobs at one stage to keep things going and to fund the business while it got up and off the ground. So it wasn't as if I just kind of was fluffing about with something and not like obviously managing me kind of main responsibilities. But
what was the steps like to starting that? How would you go about that?
So for me, I suppose, like the way I worked it was I was fortunate enough I was able to work it into like the business I was working in at the time. So I had set up that gym, as I said, and I was personal training people and teams, and I kind of worked with them guys to test it, let's say. So I said, like, you know, like kind of done market research without even knowing, so to speak. You know, it was kind of like looking to see would they be interested in it, would they buy it if it was on shelf. Then when the next step was obviously start to kind of develop recipes, you know, make meals. I used to make meals for me and a few people I trained, our close friends, and like obviously share them out and say, what you think of that? Like the way I developed the recipes and still to this day kind of made them around, sort of try and make them as generic as possible and have kind of everything nutritionally balanced. So the calories, you kind of had a target, the protein content you had a target, obviously the fat, etc. And yeah, just really kind of got out there and started testing it and see what it was like, you know, see what the feedback was like, what people thought, you know.
And how did your first year go in business, or your first 2 years?
First
like,
2
sales wise, like.
How did you start selling? Was it
it
word of mouth?
Yeah, like was it on?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, funny. We were like the flip side. Like now, sometimes when I speak to people about this, we were probably, again, very much ahead of the curve in the sense that I was selling the majority initially like through social media and the website. So I set up a website and I had obviously social media kind of pushing, and most people kind of went to social media and it was kind of all WhatsApp, and it was you know meal plans, and you were kind of you were selling through that. And it was, look, within context, it was successful because it was new, it was fresh. Everyone was looking for that solution in the health and fitness world, so it was very much kind of aimed at them initially. But then it was kind of within the kind of end of year one, start of year two, where you could see, right, there's a much bigger opportunity here, because you start getting orders in from like busy professionals that weren't necessarily playing sports or in the gym every day. They were just like working in an office looking for something healthy, so that they didn't have to go down to the deli and get a chicken roll, or you know what I mean, whatever it was that they had to grab in the convenience stores. And I was like, right, we need to like get this out there, because people were very skeptical back then to buy food in particular online. There's one thing I always say to people like that came out with COVID that was positive, was that kind of forced people, you know, to purchase online. Yeah, fast tracked probably 3 or 4 years, I'd say.
And you were saying at the start, when you started the business, you were sort of marketing it bigger than it was, or trying to make it look like it was this big professional company.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Again, like, I mean, it's probably just, I don't know, my intuition. I just felt like that, you know. I looked around, like it wasn't as if I reinvented the wheel or anything by any means. Like I looked around the other brands that had done similar, and they had obviously, you know, kind of kept it away from like who they were, the person involved, and made it look bigger than it was, just to give it the best chance of success and not have, you know, anybody put it down or not make it like kind of get to a certain sort of milestone or whatever. And then just obviously try and, for, you know, the brand's sake, make it look bigger than it was, so that it would get more traction, you know.
And what was like your packaging like at the start? Was it more like, was it as well like marketed as it is now, or what was it like?
It's crazy. Like I'll show you some pictures after of obviously what it looked like back then, and it's mad. It's like I look at it and I remember at the time thinking, oh, this looks great and all, and I look at it now, I'm like, oh my god, it's like worlds apart, you know.
Yeah, it's mad. I think at the start when you're doing something, even when I look back on our old podcast, at the moment, like in the space, you're like, oh, this is great, but when you look back, you're like, geez, that was bad.
Yeah. No, it's mad. But look, I mean, it means you're doing something right. I always say, like, if it's improving or growing or developing, like, then, you know, you're doing the right things. If you are still where you were all the way back then and anything, I mean, there'd be something wrong, you know.
Yeah.
So it's always good to look back on the journey, look at the progress. Exactly. Yeah.
100%.
What was the first big setback for you? Or first sort of kick in the teeth? Jesus. What was the first big setback? The first big sort of obstacle, let's say, was probably to why
decided to do what I did there was to get it out there and get it going. It's hard like to get any business up and off the ground, to get a start, you know. And especially in food, because you've so much like, you know, red tape, legislation, you know, food safety and all the rest. And I'll be straight, like, my family have a background in food. My granddad, a very successful butchers and kind of manufacturing thing that was in the back of it, where they were pumping spiced beef and corn and beef and stuff like that on a small scale. But so I had like a little bit of an insight, but I was very naive and jumped in head first to, you know, the whole food standards with, you know, high care, low care, and legislation there with the FSCI and everything like that. So the first big challenge was when we wanted to move from like online to retail, looking at like what that entailed, like having to obviously invest a lot of money into building a kind of facility and a process flow that suited the products and everything like that. That was a big one, you know, at the time. And yeah, like, I mean, look, from a business perspective, setbacks and obstacles, they're daily. They come still. They never stop. Like, there's been loads of big ones that since, you know, trying to raise money and get investment for growth and for scale. COVID was a massive one for us and for a lot of businesses. You know, that was kind of just out of nowhere, massive challenges that came with that. Then the inflation challenges with, like, obviously all the raw materials and logistics and everything that we I suppose had to go through post COVID and stuff like that. So yeah, there's been a lot.
How long did it take before you were able to go full time in NutriQuick, or else take on your first sort of staff?
That's a good question. Jesus, how long did it take that I was able to go full time? I'm trying to remember the year where because I worked multiple jobs for the first couple of years. I was still personal training. I was doing security in the weekends in Dublin. I actually joined the local fire brigade for like 3 years for the first. So I was,
a man of many talents.
I was doing all that, but I had to eventually cut it all. I think I'm right in saying it was around 2019. So it took 3 years before I could cut everything. I think it was the end of 2018, start of 2019, because we secured a big contract with Aldi, and I knew that was going to be a massive turning point just with the scale and everything.
How did you do that?
What do you mean?
The big contract with Aldi.
How to pull it off, or how we look after it?
Both.
Do you know what? I'm trying to remember exactly. We made the move into retail after like the first year, as I mentioned, 2017. We kind of looked at the whole facility, as I mentioned there, the first big challenge and obstacle to kind of overcome. And then we kind of went into independent retail stores. I used my network in a load of kind of gyms and clubs as well, became points of sale. And it was really difficult, like, you know, it was like slow burn. And at that point, to answer your other question there about when I started to hire staff, and that's when I started to hire like staff, like, and try and like build a team and a proper operation to go into retail. And that was super challenging. Like 2018 was the first, because 2017 spent a lot of time building it, getting it up and getting it ready to go out, and then 2018 spent a lot of time obviously trying to build that. But it was kind of halfway through we realised, geez, there's no way we're ever going to be able to scale with all these kind of, you know, van sales things and going in here and a few stores there and all the rest. So I had to chase a big contract. And I think I'd reached out to Aldi because they had engaged with something on our socials. So I'd seen they'd noticed us, and I reached out and seen would they be interested. And it was very fortunate.
Was this on Instagram or something?
Yeah, I think it was. I'm trying to remember, was it Facebook or Instagram?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was one of them. I'll be honest with you.
My sister actually has a cake business. And
right.
She made she's younger than me. She set it up when she was about 12 during COVID.
Right.
She's about 16 now, and it's full steam ahead. She's going very well.
Very good.
And she's one of the sponsors is Coco's Cakes. And
these ones behind me.
They're them ones behind you, yeah. And she made a Mr. Price cake, and Mr. Price ended up finding the post on Instagram, followed her, shared it on the story and all, and
brilliant.
Still like her posts and all to this day. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy what social media
can do. It's class, yeah. No, it's amazing. Obviously, what can kind of open doors, you know.
It is.
But yeah, no, in my case,
did it take you long to craft the message?
No, I kind of just off the cuff. I remember just going, look, I said, if you're interested, like we're moving into retail, if you're interested in exploring whatever, and eventually set up a meeting. I think originally actually we engaged, and because we were in some of the other stores, they were kind of saying there was conflict there. You know, there's always conflict in the retail spaces. The retailers tend to clash sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was kind of something that they were a bit hesitant at the start. And then obviously I went back after having a good think about it and I said, look, if you could offer us a trial at proper scale, we can cut this and we can go, you know, full steam ahead with yours. And it was a lengthy process. I think it was a good few months sampling products back and forth, you know, doing all the diligence. And then thankfully I think it was around September 2018 we secured a trial in January 2019.
Were you nervous at all going into it?
Into the meeting?
No, into like stocking your products in Aldi.
Do you know what? I don't think I was nervous. I think I was like kind of like a little bit kind of just like, I don't know what I was, like excited. I was
That
like,
was a full circle moment, because like,
yeah.
how do you find it now, like going into Aldi and seeing your product there? Is it still like feel surreal sort of thing?
Yeah, no, it is. It's crazy. Like sometimes you look at it and you have to remind yourself, like, geez, it just came from an idea,
Yeah.
and now it's like obviously in so many stores across the country, and people actually picking it up and eating and enjoying it. That's even better. You're looking at it going like, you see, like when you walk into a store, it's amazing. Like when, as you said, that feeling looking at it. But then when you see people picking it up and obviously loading up the trolley or the basket and taking it, you're like, I don't know, it's a nice feeling, you know.
How do you set goals or judge whether you're making progress or headway?
Setting goals, I mean, I always, like, I would be, like, consider myself anyways very goal driven, but I always try and set small goals towards the big goal. I think a lot of people sometimes they set big goals and then they forget how to kind of carve the way towards the big goal, you know.
Set the small like daily tasks.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like to set like smaller goals that are obviously all aligned with what the main goal is, let's say, and then just keep yourself accountable. Do you know? That's just measuring it. Like they say, if you can't measure it, you know, you're not going to make any progress. So.
And I think it makes it feel more, the goal more stressful. I think just having one big goal.
Yeah.
Because you're like, as you've said, you don't know what way you're gonna get there. You don't know what route you're gonna take.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't always have to have the answer or understand the whole pathway, but you have to, you know, have something there to kind of go off to help you make a start.
Like a vision sort of thing.
Yeah, you have to have some sort of kind of idea of how you're going to, because everyone knows it's not straight lines. There's obviously going to be things that'll kind of come out of nowhere and sidetrack you a little bit, but at least you're kind of obviously kind of pushing in the right direction, you know, that sort of way. If you're a bit headless and you're just kind of going through the motions, it can be a recipe for disaster sometimes.
Yeah.
What has NutriQuick taught you since you started up to now? What's some of the key lessons you've learned from business, life?
Key lessons, Jesus, there's so many. There's so many that, like, I mean, I suppose I underestimated, like, with building, like, the business, building the brand, building, like, the team, like, understanding that, like, you can't do everything yourself. I suppose having that realization that you need to look kind of at yourself, realize what you're good at as well and what you're not good at, which is nearly more important, so that you can try and obviously bring people into your circle or into your team that can do them things better, you know. They're the main ones for me. And then understanding that obviously it's a team, especially in the business that I run and have there. It needs a lot of resources, you know.
Do you think networking is a big part of business?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Jesus, it's so important. Never underestimate that.
Yeah.
It's invaluable, you know.
Yeah, I'm actually reading, I don't know, do you know, Never Eat Alone?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I've never read it
reading
before.
that at the minute now. It's a deadly book about networking.
Yeah, very good.
That's what it talks to you about, like, most things in life are all built up off, like, relationships sort of thing.
100%. Like, I mean, that's like something I learned, as you said, along the way, very quickly, that, like, even I see in other people's relationships and stuff, that you could have two people in the room that could be the best at what they do, and if they were to team up, they would probably be unbelievable. But if they can't work together, or if they don't, obviously, you know,
collaborate,
what I mean,
sort of thing.
collaborate properly, you know, it never work. Just never work.
Yeah.
What was COVID like for you then?
COVID, personally, or just business wise?
Business wise.
Business wise, it was a bit scary, to be honest. Like, we lost probably, oh Jesus, I would say nearly 70% of sales within less than a week.
Because a lot of your sales was coming from retail.
I think everyone just went mad, didn't it? Like when you think back, like it was like Armageddon. Nobody knew what was going on. People were.
If you're in the bread business, you would have made some money.
Exactly. Yeah, no, guys are like literally stocking up on bread, rice, toilet paper. It was crazy. It was
just the apocalypse. Yeah,
exactly. It was like the apocalypse. Everyone was just going in doing mad stuff. All the behaviours changed and whatever. So it was a bit scary for us, definitely. Like it was like, Jesus, we're literally after going from here to here overnight, more or less. And the uncertainty was worse because, like, obviously it took a couple of months for everyone to understand, you know, what was going on or how it was going to end, like where it was going to finish or what way it was going to go, you know.
Did you have to make any cuts in the team or cuts in the business?
Oh, we did, yeah. No, we had to downscale significantly. Like, we had no choice. We tried to obviously leverage some of the supports and keep as much staff as possible, but we were going quite strong at that stage. We'd had a good, successful year with Aldi growing at a rapid rate. And we actually came into 2020, like, unbelievably strong. Like, January for us is, like, the busiest time of year. So we came out of the traps
because everybody's thinking, get better.
Everyone's guilty after, you know, eating too many mince pies and drinking a lot of Guinness. So they want to get back into routine and, you know, our products kind of help them there. So it still is to this day, obviously, you know, the busiest time of year for us. Literally first week of January, things go on a massive increase quite quickly. But that year in particular, because we hadn't got much experience of that before, our January 29 was a trial, so we kind of slowly built, whereas January 2020 we came out, you know, on fire. And
how did you do that? How did you sort of come out on fire after taking a massive cut like that?
Well, this was pre-COVID, so COVID I think hit like end of April, start of end of March, start of April. So this was January 2020. So we came out of kind of, let's say, Christmas holidays 100 mile an hour, and it was just going on a massive trajectory, let's say. And then, you know, the volumes just went boom. They just literally, I'm nearly sure it was about 3-4 days we went from, like, whatever number we were doing back then, it could have been 30,000+ meals to 70% less.
That's some drop, yeah.
Yeah.
Say it was heavy to take, like, for yourself and obviously for the business.
Yeah, it was, honestly, it was a scary time because you didn't, like, we'd put so much money and investment and time into resources and people and equipment, and you're going, geez, what's going on? What's going to happen here? You know, it was weird.
And see, for like your own staff, like, do you try to run your own staff, as in, like, I heard Dana White talking about, like, kind of make them feel like they're part of something, sort of thing? Yeah, we do. We try, like, and obviously a lot of them be very, like, close, sort of thing. Like, we are fairly close. Like, it's not massive, you know, in terms of team. We've got probably just under 50 staff now, which is big enough for us, but, like,
that's an empire.
Well, it's not that just yet, but it's decent enough size team. But in the same breath, it's obviously not kind of going into the 3-digit figures where then it becomes more difficult to kind of keep the team tight and obviously build a bit of a culture within the organisation, stuff like that. But no, we do our best. Look, there's always room for improvement. Like, we've been grown constantly, and it's, you know, staff as well in that world, they come and they go a lot. You know, some people, you know, literally come in just for temporary work, you know what I mean, and busy or peak times, and then they go. But, like, our core team, certainly we would keep kind of tighten it, you know.
What does production look like? How do you produce all of these meals?
So we have a facility up in Blessing that's kind of licensed by HSE and FSAI. We have got, like, it broken into, like, 3 departments. It's around, the whole building's about 12,000 square foot, so it's not huge, but decent size again. And about 5,000 of that is the kind of factory floor that we basically cook everything from scratch. So from ingredients and raw material coming in to then going into the production, which we have, like, the prep area, the cooking lines, the chilling rooms, and then we have on the other side, which is kind of going into the high care side of the building, we have all the packing lines where we portion and pack all the ingredients, like, to the measurements before they go through a sealing machine and get coded and stuff like that, and metal detection. And then we have our kind of goods out area, our dispatch room, where the guys in that area, they kind of pick and palletize all the finished product for dispatch, you know.
And when you were starting out, was it yourself that was making all the meals?
Oh yeah, it was. I had the white jacket on, the blue hairnet. I was doing all the running around, and I still get involved every now and then and try and obviously kind of, you know, see how things work down there. Or when we're developing new recipes and stuff, I'd be heavily involved. I tend to drive a lot of that, you know. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I'll get in the mix with all of that.
That's what I think when you go into business, it shows you that you have to develop loads of different skills you probably never thought you would have, like the likes of like cooking and prepping meals and all. But I think a lot of people think, oh, you have to just master one skill, whereas you can leverage loads of different skills to get yourself ahead, obviously.
100%, and that's why I always say, like, guys obviously coming up and unsure what they're doing, don't be afraid to throw your hand at everything, because you learn quickly, you know, once you have an open mind. And then obviously whether you're good at it or not is something that you have to, I suppose, analyse after. And that's, as I say, you tend to, that's the hardest thing I think in starting a business, is that, like, sometimes at the start you don't have a budget to be able to maybe bring in them resources, so you kind of have to wear all the hats and jump from one part of the business to the other. But then when you get to a point that you can look at maybe bringing in someone who's better at certain parts of it than you, that should be really the ultimate goal, you know. 100% for scaling, it's very important, you know.
From COVID up to now, what does that look like for you, and what sort of growth each year has happened for you?
Since COVID, I suppose COVID went on, as you know, till probably the end of, albeit it stabilised throughout the period of, you know, from March, let's say 2020 to end of 2020 or start of 2021. There was still a load of restrictions, still a load of stuff going on, but it stabilised kind of the back end of 2020, and in 2021 we started to see growth coming back really into properly to kind of where we were, like we'd kind of fully recovered, let's say, in 2021. And then 2022 we started to push on. We actually expanded our distribution into different channels. We went into some of the convenience stores. We were pushing still our e-commerce sites. We were still doing some online sales and stuff like that. But we were focusing on building the factory. So some of the challenges that we've had, let's say, in terms of our growth, we were restricted very much with, like, let's say, the facility and what its capacity was like and how quickly we could grow. So we tried a few times and kind of had to pull it back. But we've seen good growth between 2022, 2023 in particular. We've seen a lot of growth, and then obviously it's continued, thankfully, you know.
What is your definition of success?
Success. Jesus. I think, to be specific with NutriQuick, like, I think seeing it stand like the test of time and obviously continuing to grow, like, that's obviously something that, you know, for me has been what I kind of see it as success. Like, it's like, obviously you see so many businesses come and go, and especially through some of the difficult challenges that we discussed there. I think seeing it obviously becoming an established brand that still has the growth in and the potential to expand, that's something that I see as success. And then some of the other things as well are nice, like we touched on earlier, like obviously being able to sponsor the lads, you know, getting recognised for some of the awards that we got. Like, we won a Great Taste Award with one of our recipes. Them things for me, they're kind of like, them sort of milestones kind of mean success, you know.
And how do you, like, sustain your drive and, like, keep your drive in you to keep pushing forward?
I think you always have to be ambitious, and, you know, look to see, like,
look
where
for the next task.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look at what the goals are, potential, and then obviously again you're back to, like, at the start, carving out a pathway to get there, you know.
Yeah.
How do you keep level headed and ride the ups and downs?
Oh, the day-to-day do that. They humble you very quickly. You have to, I mean, take the good with the bad and learn to be kind of like calm, let's say, throughout, because if not, I mean, you just, as I say, you just give up too quickly. So I think I always just take a step back whenever things get maybe a little bit overwhelming, and obviously, you know, analyse and use the resources or supports around me to try and obviously find solutions. It's really it's like, when you get to a certain point, it's like, I mean, some people think, you know, they look at, like, from the outside in business and all that, people get to there and everything's just smooth sailing. He's probably sitting at home doing this, or he's over somewhere on holidays and everything's great. But it's not. I think there's never any business that the problems or the challenges or the obstacles or the ups and downs don't go away. They're constant. They never go away. You know, it's just a case of obviously accepting that.
Just you're more so in a position, I'd say, where you can oversee things, is it? More so?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm in more of a position now with some of the team that have came into the business to be able to kind of oversee, as opposed to being down in the engine room, as they say. But you still have to be kind of involved and hands-on with a lot of the stuff that go on, you know what I mean, just to make sure it's going in the right direction and there's no slips.
How has social media helped your business? I've seen you've done like collabs with like Rory Stories, obviously sponsoring the GAA, and you've 30k on that Instagram. Like how significant is that in your business?
Yeah, it's been massively influential to the business growth and getting the brand out there. More importantly, you know, to actually like build brand awareness, having some of them, I suppose, affiliations or engagement with credible people like himself and others that we've worked with over the years. It's definitely helped get us out there, and obviously, as I say, build that brand awareness and trust within the followers of the customer base we have, you know.
And have you any like favourite books or mentors you would have learned of over the years?
Yeah, I've plenty. I've got a list of books there that I
was thinking of one that might apply to you was Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Yeah, it's a very good book.
I was thinking that applied to you, sort of.
Yeah. No, there's a load there. I like to listen to audibles as well, so I've got a few that I've even listened to twice, and that, you know, that really have helped. You know, Bob Proctor's book there, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life, is a good one.
That's what I was going to say. Are you big into like manifestation and like visualization?
Yeah, no, 100%. It was one of the biggest things I had to overcome throughout the journey of building a business, is just kind of changing your mindset to kind of get away from, as you say, kind of working on the small tasks or being sucked in and consumed to the kind of smaller kind of tasks, and really, I suppose, bring yourself into a position to be able to like oversee and focus on driving the business, you know, because you can easily, especially in a business that's so heavily operational, you know, you can easily get sucked into day-to-day tasks there, and you lose sight or you'd effort on the big task. That was hard for me, especially being involved with everything since from the start, let's say from early doors. It's like, as well, there's a bit of a trust issue there. You're afraid to hand stuff off or delegate. You're like, oh jeez, if they don't do that right now, it's going to be a disaster, you know. But yeah, no, mindset's massive.
How do you deal with doubts, or if people sort of try and put caps on you, how do you overcome that?
It's like the what you said at the start. I think you have to it's a balancing act, really, because obviously you have to have the right people around you that you can trust to take their voice, like, you know. And when I say that, like, obviously, you know, you don't ask an accountant how to change an engine. You have people who know or have experience in what you're looking for the advice. And then you have to be able to, as well, kind of just believe in yourself, let's say, have that self-belief, that, because everyone's going to, you know, in everything, knock you down or throw doubts in your head. So you have to be able to control the voice in your head sometimes, so you don't start to beat yourself.
Believe what they're saying, like.
Yeah, 100%, you know. 100%.
What goals are you currently working towards?
Well, at the moment, we're actually on the fringe of a big goal, actually, for NutriQuick. We're going to start a trial in January to export over to the UK. So we have secured that now, and there's a bit of background work going on at the moment. So we're going to be launching in January 2026 over in the UK with some of our products. So that's a massive milestone for us. And then, I mean, outside of that, we've kind of, it's all sort of intertwined, but we have got some work going on within the facility to be able to, I suppose, support or accommodate that scale, both here in Ireland and in the UK. So they're the main ones at the moment, you know.
If you go back to the first year you started the business with all the knowledge you have now, what would you say to yourself back then?
Jesus, what would I say to myself? I'd probably say trust your gut feeling. Like, never underestimate the power of your own intuition. Do you know? Because obviously using resources and supports and mentors and stuff like that, I've kind of sometimes jumped too quickly at different decisions, even when I knew I felt like, oh Jesus, I don't know whether that's a good idea, and then obviously learned the hard way. And not to say that, look, obviously it's very important to have people to bounce ideas off and obviously take advice and get, you know, an opinion from someone experienced, but to just obviously take it away and, you know, really sit down with it before you kind of make decisions, because sometimes they can be detrimental, you know.
Yeah.
If you were to change anything from the start up to now, would you?
I don't know whether I would, because the kind of paradox of what I just said there, the silver lining is, now thankfully you've survived some of the big setbacks and things that have come from some of them, but is that you learn loads. It's like,
Yeah, I was
in
going to say
it's
that
like,
you wouldn't get the lesson out of it. Then,
yeah, exactly. It's like in sports the same thing. Like sometimes you learn more from a loss than you do from a win.
Yeah.
You know, so there is a bit of a silver lining there too. You know what I mean? That you kind of have to take the good or the bad to really be able to grow and progress. You know, so
Something I was going to say to you is, like, would you be the type of person that you'd like to be still involved in your business, say at like 50 years old, 60 years old, or would you be one that like would be happy to sit back then? Or is it something that like it'd give you a purpose to like keep showing up every day, even at that stage?
no, I think I'd still like to be involved. I think I like to be busy. I like to obviously be working towards something, whatever it may be. So I definitely think I'd be the type of person that, regardless of but yeah, I think I'd definitely be the person that would be involved for as long as I possibly could be. You know.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh Jesus, next 5 years. I don't know. I think in the next 5 years, I'd love to see the brand and business obviously be successful in this market, and obviously, you know, in other markets, like, and be kind of, I suppose, expanding into other products too. I'd like to see it grow to reach its kind of potential and become like the number one sort of go-to brand for kind of healthy convenience food, you know.
If somebody was to say to you tomorrow, pick one stage sort of at a bigger scale than you are now and keep at that, or else don't pick it and keep going the way you are to keep building to see where it would be, would you take the easy way out and sort of say, yeah, I'll get to that point and then I'll be happy, or would you say, no, I'll keep where I'm at, keep the head down and keep working, and I could get bigger than that?
I think keep working. I think obviously, you know what I mean, and I think if there's scope there and potential and I believe in it, I'd keep going, because I mean, why not? Do you know?
Are you big into quotes?
I like quotes. Yeah, I like some quotes. Yeah.
Do you have any off the top of the head?
I think one that comes to mind is kind of around work ethic. Is if you're not willing to pay the price, you're not, you don't deserve to kind of receive the reward, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that whole old saying is like, you get out what you put in.
There's a good one that Glenn told me a while back and it just stuck with me. Limitation is a creation of the mind. And I didn't really understand that at the start, but I just keep saying it to myself now, and the more and more I say it, the more I understand that and the more I believe in it. Like, if you limit your mind to something, or believe you'll only get this far, you probably will only get that far, but if you believe you'll reach the moon, you could reach the moon.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's sometimes the biggest battle people have, is, you know,
Their own mindset.
their mindset. Yeah, sometimes they let that voice in their head or the external sort of doubts kind of diminish their whole drive and motivation to pursuing things, you know.
But I think, like what we said earlier, like not having a fixed mindset going into things is probably the most important part. Like going in with a growth mindset, because obviously you have the mindset parts like that, like limitation is a creation of the mind, but then you have to know how to like yourself now, like dealing with teams and scaling and that side of business, should I say.
Yeah, no, look, it's so important, you know what I mean, to have that sort of shift, let's say, in your mind, because obviously, look, it's like anything, it's a skill, isn't it? You have to practice it, you have to learn about it and understand it to be able to shift it, or obviously use it to your advantage and not let it hold you back.
Yeah, because like you're proving that yourself, you have to learn new things as you go on. Further you go, you might have to learn something new. Like.
And you should embrace, like, that should be something that excites me. I think personally, like, I love nothing more, especially, you know, you know, and meet new people that are, you know, working either in the same industry or different industry, whatever it may be, just learning from them and learning, you know, something new from them that might be able to apply to what you do, or maybe not, but it's obviously it's still something that's beneficial to know, you know.
From everything you know now, you mentioned you had a kid. Would you like your kid to be an entrepreneur and face the highs and the lows and all the stress and the 24/7, or would you like them to get a nice career and have that sort of 9 to 5 weekends off?
Do you know what? Like, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, being an entrepreneur or obviously setting a business is not for everybody. Obviously, you know, takes obviously certain mindset to be able to take risks and be comfortable with that and not let it consume you and all the rest. I think, like, for my own son, I'd obviously support him whatever he wanted to do. If I felt like he had that in him or he wanted to pursue it, I'd love it. I'd obviously back him 100%. But there's absolutely nothing wrong. I have some super successful friends that are obviously working within an organisation that climb a corporate ladder and they get themselves to an unbelievable position, you know, and are super successful. So look, it's
live their own life.
It's all preference, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can be successful in whatever it may be. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, building your own business or being an entrepreneur. You could be a super.
Yeah, that's something we always say. Like, success is like, as you've said, like, it's a preference. Like, different people have different meanings of success to them, and it shouldn't be this thing of like always reaching for the stars for a lot of people. Like,
yeah. No, like, I think it's just having. I think what is important is that whatever that you obviously want to pursue or doing is just try and be the best at it. Just apply yourself 100%. You know, whether you want to be an athlete, whether you want to work in a organisation, whether you want to just have a 9 to 5 or you want to obviously go and build your own business, you just give it 100% to get the most out of it, you know.
How important do you think having a circle of sort of like-minded people or winners, let's say, is for people like yourself?
It's paramount, isn't it, really? Like, I mean, obviously, you know, as they say, you're kind of a product of your own environment, so I mean, not everybody, again, has to be. So I'd be quite open-minded. Not everybody has to be like, you know, super successful, super driven, you know, entrepreneurial in your circle. But obviously it helps if there's people around you that have similar sort of interests or drive or, you know, goals and aspirations, because, you know, you find yourself just on a similar frequency, isn't it? And you can help and support one another, or bounce ideas off each other, and like they ultimately become your mentor the same way you probably are for them in many cases, you know. So I think it is important, you know.
What advice would you give to the younger generation, just in general, life?
Jesus, there's a few things, but I think the main one to me is that, like, especially nowadays when there's so much influence and perception is obviously so skewed at the moment, and people are looking online and seeing all these extravagant things from people that are so young and stuff like that, is that don't be putting yourself under pressure to have it all figured out. That would be the one thing I tell younger generation, if I was to give any advice, you know, is that, like, you don't have to have it all figured out, you know. You just have to stay active, stay healthy, enjoy life.
1 day at a time.
Yeah, take 1 day at a time. Obviously, find out, like, enjoy life while you're stay busy though. It's important to stay busy. Don't lose the momentum and obviously get deflated or anything like that. Like, stay busy, whatever it may be you're doing, and then try and find what your passion is before you make a jump, and obviously give it 100%. But don't get demoralised by looking online and seeing that, Jesus, this lad's only this age and he's doing that, or that person's doing this and all the rest. Try and obviously just kind of stay focused on them things, you know.
Where do you get your confidence from?
Confidence? Oh, Jesus. I think confidence comes kind of from the graft, you know, the stuff that you do behind the scenes.
I was only saying that to myself earlier on in my own head, like, because me and him were like texting each other earlier about our own growth, like, from having like Robbie G on from Beltazoni, and I was thinking, like, back then I was shaking on that podcast, but now I'm confident. So I do think confidence grows from work ethic and seeing
100%.
what's come out of it, like.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, I think it's definitely, it's like, you know, the sports analogy there, like, it's the guys obviously who are putting in the hours behind the scenes, practicing on whatever it may be, free kick skills, whatever it is like that, they get their confidence to step up in a big game because of all the hours they put in behind. It's like normal to them. It comes like that, you know what I mean? And then results too. Results help with confidence. They're important, you know, getting scores on the board, whatever it may be, like making sure that obviously you're seeing something transfer from the work you're doing, because that helps you then obviously kind of really develop your confidence, you know.
Do you have a question for the next guest, not knowing what they do or who they are?
The next guest?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I wasn't prepared for that at all. Now I'm going to lose a good opportunity here. I don't know. One of your questions would be good, I suppose. What would they do differently if they could run it back?
Yeah.
Whatever they may be, I suppose that's kind of generic.
It's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair play.
Anything else you'd like to talk about or promote?
Plug.
Plug, Jesus. Where's the products? We pulled the
NutriQuick.
bag. Available on all Aldi's. No, look, I'm happy to have the chats here. Thanks for inviting me. Had a good time.
Thanks for coming in.
Learned a lot.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good listen.
It will be a great listen. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming in.
Thanks,
We'll
boys.
take us out. Episode 37, Back of the Class podcast. We're wrapped up.